have the flu, and I think we kind of forgot that there's other diseases other than COVID, but we'll do fine. Let me know if you can hear me, see the screen, or anything. Oh, good. I'm going to start in a second. So before we start, let me tell you a bit about myself. My name is Leora. I'm from Israel. I started Fuckup Nights here in Israel 6 years ago. It's a part of a global movement, like you said a second ago, which is active in 300 cities all over the world. The past year was well. My day job, I work as an employer branding and internal communication at eBay Israel. And as part of my role and a part of my other role at Fuckup Nights as a volunteer and as a community manager, I've been running events for the past 10 years. And I think in the past 2 years, I did over 100 events, if it's online or offline. And we all have this big challenge now, how are we going back to offline events? As a community, as an organization, how are we going to do this switch after this very challenging year that we have? In this session, we're going to talk about it, but we're also going to talk about the questions that we need to ask ourselves in the organization, and we need to ask the community that will help us not only plan a really good event, but also go back to that routine in a way. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll answer them in the end, and I'll leave time for that as well. Okay. So let's start. So, by the way, this is me really, really happy in the end of an event with 300 people in the audience. 4 people just shared their failure story, and it was just incredible. I also look exhausted. I wonder why. So before we start, I want you to answer in the chat if you can. Did you had events in the past year, online or offline? Did you run events for your community? Just write it in the chat. I'll give it a second. And you can also write me a DM as well if you don't want people to see it, so it's fine. So somebody said that he did. That he's running only online events, which is obvious. It's completely okay. No matter where you are, I'm assuming that most of you are running online events right now, hoping that you go back to offline events. So I'll share with you that in Israel, we're going back to offline event after over a year. Almost 80% of the population here over the age of 18 are now vaccinated, which is allowing us to go back to physical events. We are not wearing masks in open spaces, which is great. And this is why I'm running this event at this session to talk about this specifically. Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's dive in. The first thing you need to think about is what is your current status quo in the community? If you're running events, if you're not running events, if there's more engagement, less engagement due to COVID. And the reason that I'm saying it is you can't just go back from a void of not running anything for the past 4 months, 6 months, a year, and expect everything to happen exactly like it happened before. It's not going to happen, not only because people are not necessarily going to feel safe in that environment, but because a lot has changed for your community. And I saw a few sessions on that topic in this conference, and I'm sure that you're all aware of it, but we need to think about where our community members at, not only physically, but also emotionally. Are they ready to go back to events? To understand that, we need to ask them. And that's something that I'm a very big supporter of. Not only asking the community in a form of surveys, but making sure that those surveys are a part of the planning. And by that, I mean, if you create a survey, we need to ask them, are they feel safe to go back to events? Would they prefer online or offline events? And it's okay to ask. And a lot of times you will see a 50-50 approach or 40-60. And in a second, I'll tell you what we need to do in that case. But we can ask them, do you want to do it a morning event, an evening event? Do you want to be part of the event? Do you want to contribute content to the event? What kind of event do you imagine after COVID? Do you feel safe being with other people? If you can ask that from a legal perspective, are you vaccinated or just recovered from COVID? And those kind of questions that will allow you prepare the events better. Another thing that you need to keep in mind is that a survey like that, or even a poll that you're going to use, is a teaser. It's a teaser. It's something that you can do let's say that your event is in a month, that you can do on a weekly basis with questions about the content, with questions about even the food that you're gonna bring to the event or anything like that. But it's a great teaser and a great way to engage with the community around the event. Okay. I believe that in the next 6 months, or in the first 6 months coming back to offline events, you need to create an online version for them as well, which means live streaming, record it, and then upload it as short videos. You need to create some kind of way for people who don't feel comfortable enough to come and attend events to be part of it, because you want to make sure that you don't exclude anyone from your community while changing what happened in the past year. So you can do it in a lot of ways. An online live stream is always great if you have the equipment for it. Maybe it's a great platform for it, but you can do it in a lot of ways as well. And you can record a session and record even the people at the networking stage of the event, saying like funny stuff to the camera or anything, and create a video out of it and then share it after. But it's important to include everybody, also the people that can attend from a lot of reasons. Health comes first, and this is a few questions that we need to ask ourselves before running this event. So green passport, that's a common term here in Israel. What's a green passport? People who either got vaccinated or fully recovered from COVID and now can attend events together. Can you ask if they are in that position? Can you see an ID or see any proof of vaccination when people enter in, or even when they register to the event? That's something that you need to ask yourself. That could also help you with insurance, and we'll get to that in a second. Are you going to do an event with mask on, mask off? If you are doing with mask on, who are the people that are going to make sure that everybody are with mask on? It's something else. How many people can you invite to the event? How many people can be in the same room together? Is 50 too much, 100 too much, 200 too much? Also depend on the venue, if it's indoor, outdoor, but it's something to keep in mind. How will you make sure that everybody keep a safe distance from each other? Do you need to make sure? How will you notify them after? Let's say somebody had COVID and is coming to the event, or found out after the event. How would you notify everybody about it? In Israel, you have to notify them, so you have to do a really strict registry when people enter the event. Do you or your venue have insurance? That's something that we didn't necessarily think about it before COVID. Now we need to think about it. And something that I really pushing for is just signing a declaration of health when people enter to the event, just saying that they didn't have fever, they feel well. It's not something small. It's in a way also very important from a legal perspective, but also very important for the safety for the other people who are attending the event, to make sure that they feel comfortable as well. Can you create personal hygiene stands with some alcohol gel, with some mask, something that will make people feel, again, very comfortable there? And you know what? We usually serve in meetups pizza, but will we serve pizza again, like the big slice and everybody take whatever they want? I'm not sure we will do that. We're now thinking about what kind of food we can bring people. Maybe it should be like packed food or something like that. People will feel comfortable taking, but also not touching other people's food as well at the same time. Okay. Make sure you follow up with Rsvp 24 hours before an event. A lot of things are changing. Obviously, you take under consideration that 30% will cancel on you or anything, but you don't know what's going to happen now, and you don't know if a news item will make people think twice before coming to an event or not. So my recommendation, 24 hours before the event, recheck your Rsvp and make sure that you have an active waiting list to the event, that you can let people in if people are canceling. The best way, from my perspective, to recheck the Rsvp and follow up is by telling them the honest truth. It's like, we have people on the waiting list. We want to make sure that everybody who want to attend will attend the event. If you're not planning to show up or not sure that you're going to show up, please let us know so we can give your ticket to somebody else. That way, you're making them an exit. You're giving them an exit to tell you guys, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to attend, even that it's a late notice from my side. So that's something that you can do. Another thing that we're finding out now, it's not easy. It's not easy finding a venue. Our events are between 100 to 300 people in an event. And before COVID, everybody wanted to host us, even for free, just like for the attention, for the crowd, for the brand recognition, which is amazing. Post-COVID, a lot of the open spaces that used to host us are not existent anymore. And a lot of the offices that used to give us their space can't do it anymore because they can't allow people from the outside that are not their employees to just be there. So it takes us more time than what we imagined that it will just finding the venue. It took us like 3 weeks to find a venue that will host us, because for my community, for example, we don't have the funding. So we can't just pay a venue for it. If you have the money and you have the funding to do it, that's amazing. It's probably going to be easier for you, but it's something to think about if your community is based on volunteers and you don't have the funding. Okay. Building content. Here are the 3 pillars that you need to build your content on, and we'll go over them, each of them specifically. So meaningful networking. Keep in mind, it's the first time in a really long time that I've been doing networking one-on-one or in a group or anything that is not via these small boxes on Bevy or Zoom or any other platform. It's physical, it's amazing, but there's a lot of people, and in the first few minutes or even like a half an hour, you're not necessarily going to feel comfortable networking with new people, but they want to mingle. I don't know if you know it, but research showed that the most fun and important part of events for people are the networking. It's something that we ask our communities here in Israel, my communities, and it's something that it's been shown over and over again that the networking is the most meaningful part of it. So how are we going to do the networking even more meaningful than we did before? We'll talk about it in a second. The main attraction, the content, if it's a speaker, an art show, or anything, what are we going to talk about the past year? It's going to be a debrief about something from the past year. Or are we going to talk about something completely new, a fresh start? But the most important thing, how is it related to the community and what the people in the community are going through? And continuity, what's going to happen next? So I believe that every time we plan an event, we need to think 3 steps in advance, like ahead, which means we're not only planning this event, we can give ourselves a time frame that says if we have an event in a month, then we're going to have an event in 3 months. Why? Because at the end of the event, the community is expecting something. They want to know what's next, and you need to have that plan. You don't need to tell them the topic, you don't need to tell them the content, but you can give them a date or a week in a month that it's going to happen, or something to look forward to. It's really important. Okay, so let's talk about networking, and let me know if I'm talking too fast. How can people know who's coming before the event? How can they connect with new people during the event or old friends that they didn't see for a really long time? And how will you make sure that everyone mingle? That's a big question. You're always going to have those shy people, even or specifically after this year. Some people are not going to feel comfortable mingling because they don't know anyone. So some ideas for networking to make it a bit more creative. Check-in board, when people check in, it could be an online visual board that you can see your name and your title, and that's great. And then people can scroll and see who's here. It could also be an app or anything else. Secret mission card when you enter, which means you get a card when you enter and it says, give someone a cup of water, or ask someone how it's been, or just giving them like something to do and then give the card. And it's not weird to open a conversation like that. It could be also icebreakers or anything like that. You can use colors of strings or even the name tag or anything to tag people by their business occupation or by their hobbies. For example, if your community is a community of users, you can say if you're a designer, you have a red line. If you're a web creator, you have a green tag or something like that. People can talk with people that are more in their area of expertise or hobbies or whatever. That will make them feel comfortable. I created buckets of icebreakers. I do it all the time. We have literally buckets buckets in the events on tables with icebreakers, and people just take them and you see them go to other people randomly and just talk to them, starting this icebreaker lines, which is great. If you want, you can reach out on LinkedIn and I'll send it to you. It's like a doc of 1,000 icebreaker lines, which is great. Play with the space. For example, you have a big space, then make sure that on the right size, people can go and talk about the event, content, the speakers, have specific people from your organization they can chat with. And on the other side, you can just put like whiteboards that people can write and be creative or whatever, but use the space and be playful with it. We don't have a lot of time, so I'll try to be even faster than I am. Think about the full experience. A lot of time when we think about an event, meetup, conference, we only think about the content, the speakers, the main speakers, who are the people who are going to talk. But going back to offline events or events in general, and you know what, this tip is good for any events that you're doing even online, you need to think about the full experience. And by that, I mean that people are sick of hearing other people talking, even myself. I'm kind of sick of it. So make sure that you have a way for that people talk. It could be roundtables, it could be quick change. I don't know if you know what it is, but it's giving people up to 3 minutes to talk, and then somebody else is commenting on that, and then somebody else is commenting on that or whatever, and it's like a conversation, but a really fast conversation. House of Genius, which is a great format, and you can Google it, it's amazing. Make sure the event itself is interactive. It doesn't matter that you went back to physical events, you can still use an interactive feature if it's menti.com or Kahoot or other features that you can use. Let them create something together. That's always a recipe for success if your community is engaged. And by that, I mean they can even create a playlist on Spotify. People can recommend a song while they're Rsvp to the event, just like create an open question and just tell them, recommend a song which is great for networking, and then create a playlist out of it, play it during the event, send it with the feedback in the end. It's something cool that you can do. They can create a collage on the events, at the events, or whatever they want, but create something together. Always empower a sense of community, and create a connection between the events and the community itself. It's not standard. The event can be a standalone event. It needs to be meaningful for the community, and it needs to be a flow between them. And by that, I mean, if you're doing a live stream, then you go back and you make sure that people that are asking questions during the live stream are also being asked those questions during the event itself, that you publish the event, but not only posting photos. We'll get it in a second. Okay. So feedback. Any events need feedback. That's a rule. And a feedback can be 2 questions, 5 questions, 10 questions, whatever, but you need to learn out of it. When you go back to a physical event, it's even more crucial. Why is it so crucial? Because you need to know how they felt. Did they feel safe? Did they feel comfortable? What kind of events do they want to see in the future? Do they want to be involved in events, helping you produce, volunteer in producing it, or just want to share content or whatever? But the feedback is really, really important. Something that I love to do is share statistic about the event from the feedback with my community, which means I had an event, I asked them how it was, but not how it was fun, not fun. Did you learn something new? Which out of the speakers did you learn most from? What was missing or anything? And for example, I'll take the statistic about what was missing and tell them that we changed it in the next event. Show them the number. It's amazing and something that is really engaging to the community. And also they see that you are hearing them, which is really, really important. Okay. Continuity. Don't just post photos. It's a common mistake, not just for online, but also majority offline events, that people are just posting photos from the event. Community managers do it all the time. Thank you for coming, such a great event, whatever. If you're gonna post photos, and you should post photos, create maybe a photo booth or a photo stand, something with the community that people can share. Bring a professional photographer, give them a professional Photoshop in like 3 minutes, which is super cool with your logo in the back. And especially now going back to events, that's gonna be like the first time they've been doing it for a year, which is a great opportunity for you to brand yourself. But what is the next event? Make sure when you post photo, because it's usually have a lot of engagement, that specific post of photos, to give information about how to join the community, how you can engage with the community right now, what's next for the community, or anything like that. If you posted in a newsletter or anything, then make sure that you don't post all the photos on social media and post some of them on your website or something. Make sure that you're using it to create a flow and engagement with your community. That's it. I think we're done right on time. If you have any question, you can ask them now. And I'm sorry for coughing. And I'll stop sharing this.
Thanks very much.
Of course.
Is a fantastic session. It's like looking into the future, really. In these days, just thinking,
I know.
What should we take care when we're returning to in-person events, and we're just thinking, did something like that exist or something like that? So first of all, congrats, obviously, in Israel for getting to that stage. So I hope the rest of the world can actually get into that stage. So in the community world, we can actually do events like this. So let's check it once again if we have any questions. Obviously, people have got some really good advice from your session. So they've got all these.
And we didn't cover half of it. Let's be honest, because each community have its own personality, and you would need to think about so many other things while building your next community event. But yeah, it's a start. It's like a brain teaser in a way before you're starting to plan your next event. And you can take it also to online events as well.
Fantastic. So just looking at the Q&A, I think that a question has just come up from Nofar. How are you planning to handle negative feedback coming from members to you going offline?
So we know it's going to happen. The main bad feedback that we're already getting without even publishing the first event is the issue of space. We have a waiting list usually of between 600 people to 800 people. And we need to limit our events from 300 people to 100 people. So we already know that we're going to have backlash from the community about the number of people that can attend it. So the one thing that we're doing is a live stream as well, which is very, very important to make sure that everybody feels included in some way. But after the event, we're going to have backlash. We're going to have negative feedback. It's just part of it. It's okay. We welcome it, and we see the first event, even the three events coming after COVID, as a learning period, as understanding what our community needs and how we're going to react to that and how we're going to cater it for it, and understanding if even the format of the event that we used to do before can work as well as they did before. So it's just a learning period right now, and we're going to admit it.
Indeed, yes, it's going to be a very interesting sort of a reverse transitioning period, so to speak. So it's a relearning curve. So it really feels like a world away. But the advice that you've provided today has been golden. So sometimes we just tend to forget, and it is a different time and a different world, I feel. So it's not exactly like, as if nothing happened, completely just forget and then continue as before. So there are some drawbacks, but there are some really good opportunities and things that we can actually do even better now with the experience that we have, however difficult it has been. So yeah, just checking in the session chat and in the Q&A with the attendees that we have, if there are any further questions to Leora. And I hope you get better soon.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So, but it's been a fantastic session. So if there are no further questions, if there's anything else you would like to add.
There's like one thing that I want to close this session with. Just a lot of times when people give you like inspirational quotes about everything that you need to do and you need to feel around whatever the topic is. Right now, I just want to make sure that everybody here knows you're the one who knows your community better than anyone else. You know exactly what they need. And it's going to be something of some kind of a roller coaster right now. And it's okay, not only to admit it, but also to talk about it with your community. We're planning this event. We're not sure how it's going to be. We want to learn from you. Make them part of it. part of the experience, part of the planning, part of everything. But the one thing that you need to keep in mind is the feeling that you had as a community manager pre-COVID, while you were there with your community, seeing the smile, seeing the happy faces, the familiar faces, and the feeling that you once had. You're now going to go back to it with all the stress, with all the nerves, everything. It's worth it. It's amazing. And that's like the one thing that we all need to keep in mind. That's it. If you have questions and you didn't ask, or if you want any other information, feel free to add me on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Fantastic. Leora, thank you very much. Really, really, really appreciate that. And
thank you for hosting this session.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing your valuable insights.